February 24, 1942. The California coast. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the Pacific Ocean in shades of bruised purple and blood red. For the residents of Santa Barbara, it is a Tuesday evening like any other, defined by the low hum of anxiety that has gripped the West Coast since Pearl Harbor. But at 7:05 p.m., the silence shatters. Explosions tear through the twilight at the Elwood oil field. Historical record tells us this was the work of a single Japanese submarine, the I-17, firing a handful of shells into a pier, causing minor damage and major panic. But history is often a story of near misses. In our timeline, that submarine slipped away. In this timeline, that submarine is not alone. The shelling at Elwood is not a harassment tactic, it is a signal flare. Behind that lone submarine, rising from the dark swells of the Pacific, is the Kido Butai. 6 aircraft carriers, 4 battleships, a sea of destroyers, and 50,000 soldiers of the Imperial Japanese Army aimed like a dagger at the throat of the United States. They are not here to raid, they are here to conquer. The impossible is happening. The war has come to the American mainland. Before we go deeper, let me ask you something. If you're holding your phone right now or watching this on your screen, have you subscribed yet? If you haven't, do it now. Subscribe to World War II Stunned. What history books fail to mention is how close the United States actually came to this nightmare scenario in early 1942. The American West Coast was virtually undefended. The bulk of the U.S. Navy was at the bottom of Pearl Harbor. The Army was scattered, untrained, and equipping itself with World War I surplus. If Japan had been bold enough, insane enough, to bypass Hawaii and strike California, the door was wide open. This is the story of the invasion that never happened, but the panic that was very, very real. This is the story of the sleeping giant waking up not with a yawn, but with a roar of industrial violence that the world had never seen before. The first wave hits the beaches of Malibu and Santa Monica at dawn on February 25th. It is a scene of surreal horror. Suburban homes overlooking the ocean are suddenly turned into bunkers. Families waking up for breakfast see the rising sun flag fluttering on the backs of landing craft, churning through the surf. The Imperial Japanese Army, hardened by years of brutal combat in China, storms the pristine sands of Southern California. They expect swift dominance. They expect a terrified population to crumble. They expect to march into Los Angeles by noon. But they have made a fatal miscalculation. They have forgotten who they are fighting. They are not fighting a resource-starved nation. They are fighting the richest, most industrialized, most heavily armed population on the face of the earth. The initial shock is paralyzing. Local police units are the first to respond. Officers from the LAPD and the California Highway Patrol race to the coast, armed with revolvers and shotguns. They are hopelessly outgunned against Japanese Type 99 machine guns and knee mortars. The beaches run red. The Pacific Coast Highway becomes a graveyard of burning police cruisers and civilian vehicles. By 9 a.m., the Japanese have established a secure beachhead. They begin to push inland, moving through the canyons towards the San Fernando Valley and the heart of Los Angeles. Panic spreads faster than the fire. Radio stations scream warnings urging civilians to flee east. The freeways, the arteries of American life, clog instantly. But then something shifts. The panic turns into something else. It turns into a cold, hard rage. This is the American way. The United States does not simply defend itself with soldiers. It defends itself with stuff, with logistics, with metal. By noon, the California National Guard is mobilizing. But they aren't waiting for trucks. They're commandeering city buses, delivery vans, and personal automobiles. In 1942, America has more cars than the rest of the world combined. The Japanese army is used to marching. The American defenders are motorized from the very first second. A National Guard unit from Burbank reaches the Sepulveda Pass. They don't dig foxholes with shovels. They bring in bulldozers from a nearby construction site. Within hours, they have carved earthworks that would take a Japanese engineering battalion 3 days to build by hand. This is the power of the rich warrior. We don't just fight with blood, we fight with gasoline and heavy machinery. General George S. Patton, currently training troops in the desert near Indio, receives the call. The transmission is garbled, frantic. Enemy landing at Santa Monica, heavy resistance, requesting immediate support. Patton doesn't hesitate. He orders his tanks to roll. Not on flatbeds, not on trains. He drives them down the highway, tearing up the asphalt, racing west at top speed. Back on the coast, the Japanese advance is slowing down. Not because of a massive army standing in their way, but because of the sheer density of the American landscape. Every house is a potential sniper's nest, every gas station is a bomb waiting to go off, and every American civilian seems to own a rifle. In the twisted logic of the Japanese high command, the civilian population was supposed to be docile. Instead, they find themselves taking fire from grocery store rooftops and bedroom windows. It is disorganized, yes. It is chaotic, absolutely. But it is relentless. The Japanese soldier is disciplined, willing to die for his emperor. The American defender is angry, and he has a garage full of tools. By sunset on the first day, the Japanese have pushed 5 miles inland. They have captured Santa Monica. They have burned sections of West Los Angeles. But they have not broken the line. And as night falls, they hear a sound that signals their doom. It is a low rumble in the east. It is the sound of thousands of engines. The sleeping giant is awake, and it is bringing everything it has. The United States Army is arriving, and they are bringing the industrial might of a superpower to a street fight. The night of February 25th is lit by the fires of burning Hollywood sets and coastal mansions. The Japanese commanders assemble in a requisitioned hotel in Santa Monica. They look at their maps. They see the vast sprawl of Los Angeles before them. They see the oil fields of Long Beach. They see the aircraft factories of Burbank. They believe these are prizes to be taken. They do not realize they are looking at the engines of their own destruction. They plan a night attack, a banzai charge to break the morale of the American militia holding the passes. They fix bayonets. They scream their war cries. They charge into the darkness of the Sepulveda Pass. But the Americans are not waiting with bolt-action rifles. They are waiting with M2 Browning .50 caliber machine guns, weapons that can tear a man in half, weapons that the U.S. manufactures in thousands while Japan crafts them by hand. The tracer fire lights up the canyon like a neon sign. The Japanese charge runs into a wall of American lead. This is not a battle of courage. It is a battle of production quotas, and America is winning. Dawn, February 26th. The invasion is 24 hours old. The shock has worn off. Now comes the grind. The Japanese Navy, the Kido Butai, launches a massive airstrike from the carriers off the coast. Zeros and Val swarm over Los Angeles. They target the Douglas Aircraft Company plant. They target the Lockheed factory. They drop bombs on the grid of the city, aiming to cripple the American war machine at its source. Smoke rises in massive columns from the industrial districts. It looks like a victory for the invaders, but look closer. Inside the factories that aren't hit, the assembly lines don't stop. The workers don't flee, they work faster. This is the terrifying resilience of the American system. You can bomb a factory, but you cannot bomb the know-how. And the U.S. has redundancy built into its very bones. While smoke pours from Santa Monica, trains are already leaving Detroit, Chicago, and Pittsburgh. They are loaded with tanks, artillery shells, and crates of ammunition. The U.S. rail network, the most complex and robust in the world, shifts instantly from commerce to war. Within 48 hours, the logistical weight of the entire North American continent is pivoting towards California. On the front lines in Los Angeles, the fighting has turned into a brutal urban brawl. The Japanese troops are excellent jungle fighters, but they have never fought in a concrete labyrinth like this. They are used to fighting armies with limited supplies. Here, they are confused by the American abundance. They overrun an American position and find crates of uneaten food, fresh socks, piles of cigarettes, and thousands of rounds of ammunition left behind. The American soldier wastes bullets because he knows there are millions more coming. The Japanese soldier counts every round because he knows his supply line stretches across the entire Pacific Ocean. That ocean is about to become a very lonely place. Admiral Yamamoto, commanding the fleet offshore, receives disturbing intelligence. U.S. submarines are converging on his position. Not one or two, dozens. The U.S. Navy may have lost its battleships at Pearl Harbor, but its submarine fleet is intact, and they are hunting. On the ground, the Japanese push towards downtown Los Angeles. They reach Wilshire Boulevard. Tanks roll down the Miracle Mile. It is a propaganda image for the ages, the rising sun flag marching past Art Deco department stores. But the tanks are light Type 95 Hagos. Their armor is paper thin. Suddenly, a shell rips through the lead tank, blowing the turret clean off. Rolling out from behind a barricade of overturned city buses is an M3 Lee tank. It's an ugly, tall beast of a tank, often mocked for its design. But against the Japanese light tanks, it is a monster. The American 75mm gun roars. Another Japanese tank explodes. General Patton's vanguard has arrived. The 2nd Armored Division, hell on wheels, slams into the Japanese flank with the subtlety of a freight train. The Japanese infantry have no effective anti-tank weapons to deal with this armor. They resort to suicide attacks, rushing the tanks with satchel charges. It is brave, it is terrifying, but it is mathematically unsustainable. For every tank they destroy, 2 more appear on the horizon. Patton watches the battle from a command post in the Hollywood Hills. He is in his element. He sees the Japanese trying to maneuver, trying to use the tactics that worked in Malaya and the Philippines. But there is no jungle to hide in here. There is only the killing ground of the American city. The U.S. forces are not just using military radios, they are using the telephone network. Commanders are calling in artillery coordinates from payphones in drugstores. The civilian infrastructure of the United States is being weaponized. By the afternoon of the 2nd day, the Japanese advance halts. They have taken heavy casualties, they are running low on ammunition, and they are realizing the horrifying truth of their situation. They are trapped on a continent that hates them, facing a nation that has unlimited resources to kill them. The rich warrior is flexing his muscles. Artillery batteries are set up on golf courses. 105mm howitzers begin to pound the Japanese positions in Santa Monica. The rate of fire is staggering. Japanese artillery doctrine calls for conservation of shells. American doctrine calls for time on target, wiping a grid square off the map with overwhelming simultaneous fire. The ground shakes. The Japanese soldiers, dug into the ruins of luxury beach houses, are subjected to a storm of steel. They have never seen firepower like this. And in the sky, the balance is shifting. The U.S. Army Air Force is redeploying every available fighter plane from across the country. P-40 Warhawks and P-38 Lightnings begin to arrive in swarms. They don't have to fly far. They can land at any municipal airport, refuel from civilian gas trucks, and be back in the air in 20 minutes. The Japanese carrier pilots are elite, the best in the world, but they are flying continuously with no relief. Fatigue sets in. They shoot down 10 U.S. planes, and 20 more take their place. It is a war of attrition, and Japan has already lost. As the sun sets on February 26th, the mood in the Japanese command post is grim. They have not secured the oil fields. They have not broken the American will. They have only succeeded in kicking a hornet's nest the size of a continent. And now the hornets are angry, and they are all armed with machine guns.
Day 3, February 27, 1942. The invasion has stalled. The Battle of Los Angeles has turned into a siege. The Japanese forces are dug in along a defensive perimeter stretching from the Santa Monica Pier to the cliffs of the Pacific Palisades. They occupy the high ground, looking down on the city they failed to conquer. But being on the high ground only makes you a better target when the enemy has absolute air superiority. And that is what happens on day 3. The sky turns black, not with clouds, but with wings. Bombers. B-17 Flying Fortresses, B-25 Mitchells. They are not flying from distant bases in England or remote islands. They are flying from airfields in Nevada, Arizona, and Northern California. They are flying short hops, fully loaded with high explosives. The carpet bombing begins. The wealthy enclaves of the coast are pulverized. The Japanese troops are pounded into the dust. There is no glory here. There is only the industrial application of high explosives. The U.S. commanders are ruthless. They are not risking American lives in bayonet charges. They are spending dollars to save blood. They will shell a single sniper with 1,000 rounds of artillery rather than send a squad to root him out. This is the luxury of the American way of war. Waste is not an issue. Victory is the only metric. At sea, the situation for the Japanese Navy is catastrophic. Admiral Yamamoto knows he has overstayed his welcome. His carriers are low on fuel, his aircraft losses are mounting, and the American submarines have arrived in force. At 10 a.m., the carrier Kaga takes a torpedo to the stern, then another to the port side. The massive ship lists. It is the beginning of the end for the Kido Butai. Yamamoto faces a choice: stay and support the troops on the beach and lose his entire fleet to land-based bombers and subs, or retreat and leave 50,000 men to die. It is the cold calculus of war. He orders the retreat. The destroyers lay down a smokescreen. The great ships turn their bows west towards the safety of the open ocean. On the beaches of Santa Monica, the Japanese soldiers watch the horizon. They see the smoke. They see the ships turning away. They know what it means. They have been abandoned, castaways on the edge of a hostile empire. But the Imperial Japanese Army does not surrender. They dig deeper. They turn the basements of beach houses into pillboxes. They booby-trap the palm trees. They prepare to die. The American counteroffensive begins at noon. It is not a subtle maneuver. It is a sledgehammer. 5 U.S. Army divisions supported by 3 armored divisions push forward. They are supported by a rolling barrage of artillery that never stops. The noise is deafening. It can be heard as far away as San Diego. General Patton leads the push from the center. His tanks crush the barricades on Wilshire Boulevard. Flamethrower tanks are brought up to clear the bunkers. It is a gruesome, horrifying spectacle. The shock of this war is not just the invasion. It is the violence the United States is willing to unleash on its own soil to purge the invader. We destroy our own neighborhoods to save them. A Japanese major, writing in his diary found days later, scribbles his final entry. The Americans do not fight like men. They fight like machines. They rain steel upon us. There is no honor in this. Only death. We have woken a dragon. The battle shrinks. From a citywide front, it collapses into a pocket around the Santa Monica Pier. The Japanese represent a cornered animal. They fight with suicidal intensity. But intensity cannot stop a Sherman tank. The Americans are methodical. They clear one block. They resupply. They clear the next. There is no rush. They have all the time and all the ammo in the world. By the evening of day 3, the Japanese pocket is only a few square miles. The Pacific Ocean is at their backs. The entire might of the United States Army is to their front. There is nowhere to go. And yet the U.S. forces pause. They do not charge in for the kill in the dark. They wait. They set up floodlights, giant industrial searchlights powered by generators. They light up the Japanese positions like a football stadium. Psychological warfare. We see you. We are coming, and there is nothing you can do. Loudspeakers are brought up. Japanese-American translators broadcast surrender appeals. Your fleet is gone. You are alone. Surrender and live. A few come out, ragged, starving, terrified. But most stay. They choose the way of the warrior. The Americans choose the way of the artillery shell. The order is given to finish it in the morning. The night is filled with the sound of U.S. trucks bringing up even more ammunition, more shells, more rockets. The rich warrior is reloading his pockets.
February 28, 1942. The final day. The morning sun reveals the devastation. The beautiful coastline is a moonscape of craters and twisted metal. The smell of cordite and sea salt hangs heavy in the air. The final assault begins. But it is hardly a battle. It is an execution. U.S. Navy destroyers, having sortied from San Diego, arrive offshore. They add their 5-inch guns to the chorus of destruction. Caught between the Army on land and the Navy at sea, the Japanese force is evaporated. The resistance crumbles. The final banzai charge happens at 11 a.m. 3,000 Japanese soldiers, led by their officers, swords drawn, charge across the open sand towards the American lines. They are met by a wall of fire so intense it essentially erases them. Heavy machine guns, canister shot from tanks, and semi-automatic rifle fire from thousands of infantrymen. It is over in minutes. The last remnants of the invasion force surrender by 1 p.m. The silence that follows is deafening. The invasion of California is over. It lasted 4 days. But the impact changes the world forever. In the aftermath, the United States is no longer a divided nation debating the war. It is a unified bloc of cold, hard resolve. The sight of American cities burning on newsreels radicalizes the population. Recruitment centers are flooded. Factory output doesn't just double, it triples. The Yamamoto prediction has come true in the most terrifying way possible. He feared waking a sleeping giant. By invading California, he didn't just wake the giant, he injected it with adrenaline. The consequences for Japan are apocalyptic. The U.S. military, fueled by vengeance and unlimited resources, accelerates its timeline. The island-hopping campaign is more brutal, more direct. There is no mercy. The Europe-first strategy is abandoned. The fury of America is directed entirely at the Pacific. The timeline of the atomic bomb is accelerated. In this reality, the war ends not in 1945, but in 1944. And the terms are absolute. This what-if scenario exposes the fundamental truth of World War II. Japan was a warrior nation, but America was a warrior corporation. Japan fought with spirit. America fought with inventory. And in modern war, inventory wins. The invasion of California remains the greatest strategic blunder in military theory. It proved that you cannot conquer a nation that can build a tank faster than you can bake a loaf of bread. It proved that the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans were not just moats, but barriers that only one nation had the resources to truly cross. The wreckage of the Japanese landing craft on Malibu Beach was left there for years, a rusty monument to a fatal mistake. A reminder to the world: do not touch the soil of the rich warrior, for he has the money to buy your destruction, and he has the receipt to prove it. This has been a glimpse into a timeline that almost was. A timeline where the war came home, and where the home fought back with the weight of a collapsing star. The Battle of Los Angeles was a myth in our world, but in the multiverse of history, it is the moment the rising sun set forever. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, make sure to like this video. The history you know is just one version of the truth. We explore the others. I'm waiting for you in the comments. Would you have joined the militia or headed east?